So inheritance is great, but sometimes we want to change something in the inherited code. For example, look at the full name getter in the person class. Let's say we're going to implement the teacher class, and when getting the full name of a teacher, we want to prefix their name with professor. So in the teacher class, we want to change the implementation of the full name getter. This is called method overriding. So overriding a method means changing its implementation. Let me show you how to do this. So down the bottom, we don't need the student object. Instead, we're going to create the teacher class. So class teacher extends person. Now at this point, I don't want to add any extra properties in this class, so we don't need to create a constructor. And that means we're going to inherit the constructor of the person class. So right here, we can create a teacher, new teacher, and now we see the constructor of the person class that we have inherited. So let's pass some values like John Smith. Now we do a console.log and print teacher.fullname. Now if you run our program, obviously we see John Smith, but we want to change the implementation of the full name getter and prefix the name of the teacher with professor. So back to the person class. To save time, I'm going to copy the full name getter and then paste it in the teacher class. Now here we need to prefix this with the override keyword to tell the compiler that we are overriding or changing the implementation of this method. Now, over here, first we're going to add professor, followed by the first and last names. But we already implemented this piece of logic in our base class, so we don't want to repeat that here. This is where we use the super keyword once again. So let's remove this expression. We type super to reference the base class. So super dot full name. Okay? Now let's run our program one more time. Now we see Professor John Smith. So this is how we can override methods in TypeScript. Now, one more thing before we finish this lesson. In this case, we could still achieve the same result without using the override keyword. So if we run our program one more time, we still see Professor John Smith. There is a tiny problem though. The problem is that this method, this getter, is now disconnected from the one defined in the base class. And this can cause issues, as you will see in the next lesson. So as a best practice, we're going to enable a special compiler option that would remind us to use the override keyword. So let's go to tsconfig.json. In the type checking section, we have a compiler option called no implicit override. So we're not going to allow implicit overriding of methods. We have to be explicit about them. So now back to our teacher class, we have a compilation error saying this member must have an override modifier because it overrides a member in the base class person. So the compiler knows that we have a getter by the same name in the person class, and that's why it's complaining and saying, hey, you forgot to use the override keyword. So now we add that and the error goes away. Next, we're going to talk about a powerful technique built on top of method overriding called polymorphism.